What's up guys, by the end of this video, you're going to have learned how to deal with that one player who makes you tilt. Or perhaps there's many players who make you tilt. Perhaps you've got a big list of players who annoy you and get under your skin. But as a poker player, we do have certain players that annoy us, that frustrate us, that get under our skin. Sometimes just playing online, just seeing their name on the table causes a reaction. Frustration, anger, annoyance. If you're playing live, seeing their face is enough to get your blood boiling. Alright, so today we're going to explore what causes that and how to better deal with those reactions. Alright, because I'm sure you can acknowledge that it's not going to do you great in terms of your playing ability to have that kind of reaction. So first of all, the first factor that we need to be looking at is the story we are telling ourselves about that person. Alright, now I had a great conversation with one of my coaching clients yesterday, and he was telling me about this player, this regular, who he was having difficulty with. Alright, so I asked him, tell me the story you're telling yourself about this guy, what do you think of him? The first thing he said is, I hate this guy. I really don't like him. He's a streamer, he's got a popular stream, and I don't like his personality, don't like his game, don't like anything about him, I just don't vibe with him at all. Alright, I was like, okay, awesome. So what are you thinking when you're playing against this guy? And he said to me, I'm thinking, I want to win. I want to beat this guy. I do not want to lose this guy. I want to beat him. Alright, so by the story he's telling himself, don't like this guy, hate him, I want to beat this guy, you're instantly creating this kind of pressure on yourself. Alright, so now he wants to beat him. He's really raising the stakes internally that I need to win. I need to beat this guy. Alright, so when you're having that guy, the guy that you're thinking of who causes you to tilt or at least feel frustrated, what's the story you're telling yourself about him? What is it that you don't like about him? What is it that annoys you about him? Alright, so first thing you need to do is identify the story. Then the second factor that kind of goes into this is the unfairness of losing against this player. The unfairness of losing. If you're beating this guy who you don't like, generally you're not going to have much of an emotional reaction. You'll be like, yes, beating this guy, this is awesome. But when you're losing to people that you don't like, it feels doubly unfair. Alright, so on this conversation I had yesterday, I asked him how's things going against this player you're playing, and he said, oh well, I've been crushing him and I'm a much better player than him, but for the last 2 weeks he's been doing well against me. He's been doing really good. He's built some momentum against me over the last 2 weeks, and I bet this guy is now thinking that he's got an edge on me. Alright, and he's getting really annoyed at the thought of this player who he doesn't like thinking that he has an edge on him. Alright, so I asked him, does it really matter? Like, does it matter if this guy thinks he's better than you? And his initial response was to say, like, yeah, it annoys me. I don't want him to have the audacity to think he's a better player than me when I know I'm better than him. Alright, but as we start to unpack it, we realized there's a big narrative, alright, a big story that's creating this feeling. Alright, so we can deal with like the byproducts of it later, but the main thing to understand is what's causing this. Alright, so what's the story I'm telling about this player and the unfairness around losing to this player. Alright, why does it feel so unfair? Alright, and what you've got to acknowledge is certain players are going to get good results on you throughout your poker career. Alright, they're going to get good results just based on variance, based on playing styles. Certain players will do well against you. Alright, and if you don't like that opponent, that's going to cause a big reaction. Alright, so I picture myself, I played heads up sitting goes, and I would occasionally run into players who I didn't do well against. Alright, and sometimes they weren't good players by my definition of good player. And it would get me really annoyed at first. Alright, now I go, this guy isn't very good, he does all these things bad, and I'm losing to him, alright? And at first that would feel very unfair, very unjust. So the story I would tell myself is, I deserve to win, he deserves to lose, and it felt really unfair when the results didn't come my way. But after getting a bit more mature throughout my poker career, I realized you have to accept that some people are going to beat you. You have to accept that you're going to get bad results against some players. You have to accept that some players who are way worse than you, in their own head, are going to think that they crush you. Alright, you need to accept that. Because if not, what happens? We try to force it. We try to beat our head against the wall. We try to make them suffer by beating them or trying to force beating them. As a result, the only person who suffers is us. Alright, so to deal with this on this level, it's all about accepting. Accepting that some players you aren't going to like, but also accepting that some players are going to get good results on you. Alright, if you can think about the story you're telling yourself and you can just pair those things together, like lowering the narrative in terms of the kind of intensity of feelings, and then also the unfairness of losing, accepting that some players are going to get good results, especially over small samples, that lowers the intensity. All right, so those are the first two factors. Then we've got the third factor that causes problems, and this is generally their playing style. All right, so when you generally dislike someone and someone causes you to tilt or feel frustrated, you generally don't like their playing style. All right, you don't feel comfortable against their style of play. This could be because they're very aggressive and they put you in a lot of tough spots. They're generally a lot of people tilt or get angry against players who are super aggro. And then we've got they're doing things that you're not used to. All right, they could be doing small bets or leading or just doing things with their ranges that doesn't make sense to you, and you're labeling it as bad, and as a result, it's causing annoyance. All right, if you knew how to play against them very well, it wouldn't cause as many problems. All right, so their playing style, for whatever reason, is taking you out of your comfort zone. You can't play your default style, or you are playing your default style and it's not working overly well. That's creating a emotional response. Alongside that, you've got the uncertainty on how to play against them. All right, so their playing style then leads into you not knowing how to exploit them. How do you best adapt against them? How do you play against this opponent in the best way? So that uncertainty now leads to you feeling like, this guy's not doing the good things, but how do I beat him? How do I maximally exploit him? How do I punish him the most possible? All right, and all these kind of feelings, like the story, the uncertainty, and then this kind of their playing style, like kind of fueling you and not knowing what to do against it, creates this whole cocktail of emotion where it's like, I hate this guy, I hate playing this guy, and just seeing his name in the lobby or in the table can make you get really angry. All right, so we've got to examine this. So with the second solution, like the second scenario, where basically their playing style and you not want to play against it, the way to deal with this is you've got to, first of all, acceptance of their style. So accept that people play differently. A lot of people, I've had many conversations with poker players saying, he shouldn't be doing this. This guy shouldn't do that, but he does. And my response is always, why shouldn't he be doing that? He can do what he wants. Like, you don't control this guy. He can bet, overbet, he can bluff, he can do whatever he wants with his range, right? So you can't control him. So you feel like he can't do these things because he shouldn't be allowed to, especially if he gets rewarded. So first thing, give your players, your opponents permission to do what the hell they want. But then comes in the most powerful one. The second one is building a game, all right? Building a exploitative strategy to beat this player, all right? And I do this a lot in my poker career, playing heads up. I'd often come against players who would do this weird shit. And at first, I would think, all right, Adam, play your default game and you win. And very often that wasn't true. And I would play my default game and I'd get crushed. And they were doing things that weren't doing well against my default. So you had to like go away and study and work on it and realize, wait a second, I need to come with a unique strategy against this guy. So the guy who tilts you the most, use that anger, that build up rage to go into the lab and literally map out a strategy against this guy. Okay, this guy's got this and these forward bluffs. He's doing this, he's doing this. When he's doing these things, I'm going to do all these things to exploit him. All right, and come with a really, really good strategy against this player. So you get the point when you're playing this guy who caused you to tilt, you're now, instead of getting annoyed by this player, you're now excited to use your new strategy. You're now thinking, he's doing this, I can exploit him in these ways. And what I can guarantee, right, not guarantee, but what I can strongly suggest is when you get good against this player, or these players who cause you troubles, when you start getting good results against them, when you have a strategy you're very confident in against their style, all of a sudden they don't bother you. All right, you go from being really annoyed and tilted by this player to going, it's this guy. It's this guy. I like playing against this guy to know how to play against it. And I can picture myself with this exact transformation when I was playing these super aggressive players, and I was like, I hate playing against them. But then I got really confident in the strategy against them. I'm like, now it's this guy. Puts me in those uncomfortable spots, but I'm confident with my strategy. All right. So just to unpack it all or wrap it all together into one kind of bundle, we've got a lot of factors that come into making us have this kind of opponent we don't like playing against. The first two factors are the story we tell ourselves and the unfairness of losing. All right, so we need to start accepting that people do things differently and basically lowering that narrative. As soon as you're telling yourself, this guy, watch what your mind does when you play against this opponent that causes troubles, and try to lower the intensity, all right? Because you having a negative reaction with the story you're telling yourself is only hurting you, all right? So the player I was working with, he told me he hates this guy. He just wants to crush him. That story is creating this pressure that we need to lower, all right? Next thing is losing. All right, accept that some players you're going to lose to throughout your career. All right, you can't beat everyone. All right, it's a great goal to have, but you're not going to beat everyone. Okay. Next thing is how they play. All right, and their style of play. Realizing that people have different styles, and your job isn't to change their styles; it's to get good at playing against different styles. So when they have a different style that comes up, awesome. You acknowledge that. Don't try and change it. Which then leads on to point 4, which is to get good at playing against that style. Get good at the counter strategy. Get good at adapting. Get good at the guys who cause you the most trouble, who make you tilt the most, become the expert at crushing that style. And that's the ultimate. And as soon as you cross over, as soon as you become the crusher of that style of tilted to you, instead of being annoyed of that guy when he comes to the table, you're like, yes, payday. This guy, payday. Let's go. All right. Now, some guys will be tough. Like you'll have some players who might make you tilt because they're really good. All right. I had a couple of guys in my career where there was really good players, and I got annoyed playing against them because they outmaneuvered me. All right. But even then, my goal against those guys was to get better and better, so I could have a better strategy against them in order to improve my game. All right. So although these guys are the most annoying, they're also the biggest opportunity to work on yourself. First of all, work on your mindset and change the inner narrative. And second of all, work on your game. Build confidence with your strategies. All right, so use this in action. This is a one where you actually need to really think about it in game. And as you're playing players who will cause you to tilt, or that one guy, that one nemesis that you might have in mind as you've been watching this video, watch how it sparks reactions in you and ask yourself where it's coming from, which are the 4 factors, and then start working on it. Start working on building a better strategy against this opponent and start lowering the intensity of that inner narrative. Alright guys, let me know in the comments if this video resonated with you, if you've got any villains or any nemesis that are causing you problems. If there's anything specific on your mind, anything that this player is doing or anything that is specific to mindset that's coming from this situation, let me know in the comments below and I will do my best to try and help you with that. And also, before you go, smash that like button so that you get my future video recommendations. There's going to be plenty more coming from me very soon.